All right, everybody, welcome back to the Realty Rundown with the Nick Wyse team. I'm your host, Nick Wyse, and alongside my co-host, Nathan Schwartz.
That's right.
Wave to the people today.
Hello, hello.
Today
which
we're
hand do I
diving
use
into
here?
a topic. Yeah, we have immediately just derailed. 5 seconds into the episode, we're derailing. That's how it is. It's just one of those days, right?
Oh, yeah.
But today we're diving into a pretty cool topic, and I think this is one that a lot of people don't really know even exists in the world of real estate, and that would be assumable mortgages. And if you have heard of assumable mortgages, you probably don't know how they work. I think it's a situation where a lot of brokers, are still a little unclear on this, just because it's not directly in our wheelhouse.
Right.
This is something that lenders deal with, but certainly as agents, it's something that we can make people aware of, and that's our goal today. So, especially with current mortgages, kind of hovering around that 6.75, to maybe 7% range for a lot of buyers right now, assumable mortgages can be a really attractive option for yourself as a buyer or for you as a seller to propose to a buyer. So, Nate, I just want to start with some basics. If you can kind of take us through what is an assumable mortgage?
Yeah, for sure. An assumable mortgage allows a home buyer to take over the seller's existing mortgage, including the terms and interest rate. We'll probably get to that later. This means if the seller has a lower interest rate than the current market offers, the buyer can benefit from that lower rate.
Yeah. So, I mean, a huge win, when we're coming out of this area, this era where the rates were just historically low, almost certainly never going to see that again in our lifetimes. And as I've said many times, if we do see rates going back down to 3%, that's bad.
Yeah.
That means things are going really bad in the economy overall if we're trying to spur buying like that again. We don't need any more pandemics to get our rates down to 3%. I think we're good. But certainly it's an exciting prospect for buyers, to have the option to where maybe they can assume a mortgage at those very low interest rates. But are all mortgages assumable, Nate?
Not all. So typically government-backed loans like FHA, VA, and USDA loans are assumable. Conventional loans usually aren't unless specified in the loan terms.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So in other words, if you think your loan that you have right now on your property might be assumable, it's certainly worth a call to your lender, whoever processes your loan. It might not be the person you got the loan with, but it's whoever bought it. Sometimes you get that letter in the mail says your loan is now being serviced by XYB Bank. And you're like, oh, great. I had no choice in that. Well, that's loans. That's how they work. They can be sold. So whoever's currently servicing your loan, it's worth a call to them to see if you do have an assumable loan. Now, what process would a buyer go through, Nate, to go ahead and assume that mortgage?
Yeah, so first the buyer must meet the lender's qualification criteria. So similar to applying for a new mortgage, this includes credit checks, and income verification, of course. And then once approved, the buyer assumes the remaining loan balance and continues with the existing terms.
Yeah. Yep. So just to repeat again, kind of a little bit and cover over, some of the pros and cons. What are some of the clear advantages to a buyer here?
Yeah, for sure. So the primary benefit is securing the lower interest rate than what's currently available. Like, again, we're looking 6.5 to 7. I think we're having right around 6.5 right now, but still, could get a better rate than what we have now. And it leads to significant savings over time. So additionally, closing costs might be reduced. And then because some fees are associated with new loans, those fees can be avoided since you're not taking out the new loans. Some of those fees can be avoided. So
yeah, it's kind of as opposed to starting the whole mortgage process of a first mortgage and going through that by assuming there's also, in addition to the obviously lower interest rates, like you mentioned, there's the potential there for your closing costs to be lower as well. So that could be thousands of dollars right there.
Oh, yeah.
It can easily be thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
What are some downsides, I guess, that you would see to doing something like this, Nate, or some things that would make it more difficult?
Yeah, so some downsides. So one challenge is the limited availability. So only about 6% of listings are eligible for assumption. So additionally, if the home's value has appreciated significantly, the buyer may need to cover the difference between the loan balance and the purchase price, possibly requiring a substantial upfront payment.
Yeah, that's really the kicker right there, right? If you have an assumable loan, but you took it out in 2021, obviously the market went crazy for a couple of years there. So all of a sudden, your $200,000 home is now worth $275,000.
Yep.
Well, this doesn't, like we said, this doesn't reset the mortgage. So that equity that you got, great as a seller, you're going to
Right.
get for that equity, but as a buyer, you kind of have to come in with enough cash to make up that gap. And obviously that is a challenge. It's hard
Yeah.
enough to save 3.5% for an FHA loan, let alone 20% for a conventional loan, let alone, $75,000 or more in this situation here. Depending on what loan package was used to purchase that home. And that's for a $200,000 home, now to $75,000 home,
Yep.
of which that's even, below the median prices that we're seeing for a standard 3-bed, 2-bath home in Elkhart County.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some challenges for sure for buyers. Nate, I know you kind of had a real world example to throw some actual
Mm-hmm.
numbers out there. Do you want to take us through that?
Yeah. So a good scenario would be that a seller has an FHA loan with a 3% interest rate. A buyer facing current rates of around 7% assumes this loan, saving significantly in interest payments over the life of the loan. If a buyer assumes an FHA loan with 3% interest rates, instead of taking out a new loan at the current market rate of 7%, here's how the savings would, of course, break down. So monthly payment at 3% is $1,054. Monthly payment at 7% is $1,663. So your monthly savings is the difference, which is $609. So here's a big picture. Over the full 30-year loan term, the total interest paid at the 3% rate is $129,444. At the 7% interest rate, it's $348,772. So total savings in interest over 30 years is $219,329. So this shows how assuming a lower rate mortgage could save a buyer hundreds per month and over $200,000 in total interest costs.
It's absolutely wild when you actually see the numbers out there. $600 a month.
Yeah, that's a big
just
chunk.
to get that interest rate down. And then $200,000, over the course of the life of that 30-year loan. These are not small numbers.
No.
So this is definitely something, if it's out there, we want to help people find it. For the sellers, I do the listings primarily, and for my sellers, if you have an assumable mortgage, this is absolutely something that we want to promote and that we want to push forward, making your home even more appetizing to buyers. So, for savings like that, I think it's worth the exploration for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And in a competitive market, the option of an assumable mortgage can set a listing apart, potentially leading to quicker sales and even higher offers. So.
Exactly. Yep. Especially for our big down payment buyers. If someone's got a big chunk, they just sold their home, that kind of situation. Now they're all sad because they're moving off the 3% mortgage they had there. Well, wouldn't that be beautiful if you could just roll it into a bigger house, use that equity that you built the last few years, and still have that wonderful interest rate. So it's not easy, but it's out there, and it's a possibility. So let's just maybe recap one more time, Nate. What should buyers be looking to do here?
Yeah, so verify, if you're going to do it, verify loan assumability. So confirm with the lender or whoever the lien holder is that the loan is indeed assumable. And then assess financial readiness. So ensure that you can cover any required down payment or equity difference. And then consult professionals. So work with real estate agents like us and mortgage professionals, which if you don't know of any, we can certainly help you with that as well. And then they can help you with the assumable mortgages to navigate the process smoothly. So.
Yeah. Well, man, Nate, I'm really glad you did this episode and covered this. You're kind of one of the preeminent buyer's agents in Elkhart County. People know that, and they know that to get the best possible deal, you're somebody you can go through. So I appreciate you covering this for us this week. Assumable mortgages, I mean, they can be so valuable. And now we've seen why. The numbers are right there in black and white.
Yep, absolutely, Nick.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in to another episode of the Realty Rundown from the Nick Wyse team. Just remember, here's another example. If you've got real estate questions, you get Wyse replies because Nick and Nathan knows. Don't forget to reach out to us, guys, if you have any follow-up questions or if you're ready to go out and start hunting and see if we can find you one of these assumable loans for you.
That's right. Thanks, guys.
Have a good week, everybody.